Jam buds?
Jam buds.
This is Connie Maheshwaran, moments after gaslighting Steven into feeling bad about himself and apologizing to her. Steven Universe was an amazing show, but it definitely had its glaring flaws. Yeah, sometimes the antagonist got redeemed a little too quickly. The series had a really bad habit of rewarding some of its harshest characters while ignoring some of its most tortured ones. And a decent amount of the series' most important and built-up arcs felt rushed. But I promise you that none of that was as poorly executed and genuinely harmful to its young targeted audience as the romances on Steven Universe. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I'm not a licensed psychiatrist or a relationship expert. That being said, it's been extensively documented by actual professionals that a relationship cannot have more than one abuser. I completely understand why this could sound like a controversial mindset to have, but it's the truth. Mutually abusive relationships don't exist according to licensed therapists. Unhealthy relationships do exist though, and if an unhealthy relationship becomes abusive, then it's allegedly common for victims to lash out aggressively as a defense mechanism. This is of course a very complicated and delicate topic, but it's crucial that we addressed it head on before going any further into our discussion. Trust me, we've gone down this road before a couple of times on the channel. During the penultimate episode of season 4 titled Are You My Dad?, Steven and Connie would come face to face with Aquamarine and Topaz, 3 veteran Homo gems who were personally sent to Earth by Blue and Yellow Diamond respectively, in order for them to secure a list of humans who were important to the crystal gems, a list that Steven technically gave them himself during season 1. Connie would get caught by Aquamarine and Topaz after failing to defeat them with Steven. This would be the catalyst for a ton of horribly handled drama later on. During the finale of season 4 titled I Am My Mom, Steven ingeniously came up with a plan to trick Aquamarine and Topaz into capturing him, after which he managed to free himself along with all of the other humans that they captured during the arc, including Connie. Something that's important to remember here is that our girl Connie has admittedly been training really hard with Garnet and Pearl as Stevonnie because she wanted to be able to fight alongside Steven in events just like this one. But Steven, feeling overwhelmed with the current situation, chokes. After exhausting all of his options, Steven would make the ultimate sacrifice and willingly surrender himself to Homeworld after he revealed to Aquamarine and Topaz that he in fact wielded the gemstone of the infamous war criminal Rose Quartz. Steven would be placed on trial in front of Blue and Yellow Diamond during the first arc of season 5. However, he would escape the clutches of Homeworld after fighting for his life alongside Lars, who was also brought to Homeworld after being recaptured on Aquamarine and Topaz's spaceship. After Steven revives Lars from a fatal injury sustained on Homeworld, he would soon make his way back to Earth through the pocket dimension connected by Lion's mane and Lars's head. When our boy Steven did finally get the chance to discuss everything that he had to go through on Homeworld with Connie though, she acted extremely annoyed and agitated towards him, seemingly out of nowhere. Connie explained to Steven that he shouldn't have given himself up to Homeworld without putting up a fight. Except he didn't give himself up to Homeworld without putting up a fight. Both Steven and Connie fought as best as they could during their battle against Aquamarine and Topaz. Forming Stevonnie during that fight literally wouldn't have changed a thing. If anything, it would have simply made Aquamarine lose her patience again and consider cracking open a couple of human heads. This fallout between Steven and Connie, that would last over 5 episodes mind you, completely fell flat right off the bat, because Connie doesn't have a reasonable basis to be mad at Steven for giving himself up. Despite all of this being painfully clear to the audience, Connie would ride off with Steven's lion, again for a ridiculously long amount of time, until they'd meet and make up at Kevin's party. The entire scene was just Steven apologizing to Connie for letting her down because she practically forced him to apologize, even suggesting while talking to each other that it might have been a little too soon for them to make up. This entire arc was Connie being uncharacteristically manipulative, because Connie was always portrayed as being one of the most level-headed characters on the entire show. In fact, to contrast this bizarre portrayal of Connie even further, during a near-identical scenario between season 1 and season 2, she actually comforted Steven instead of trying to make him feel worse. Stevonnie is an interesting fusion. Rebecca Sugar confirmed that their age is the combination of Steven and Connie's ages at the time of fusing, which makes sense, and helped a little bit to negate some of the weirdness surrounding Stevonnie's existence. Fusion in itself is a fascinating concept, Gems choose to fuse for all sorts of reasons, like to increase their strength during a fight, or to complete a task more efficiently. However, it's possible for gems to enter a fusion or be kept inside of a fusion against their will. We've had the misfortune of witnessing what this very scenario looks like firsthand plenty of times, with the most infamous occurrence being the controversial birth of Malachite. Lapis Lazuli's dynamic with Jasper isn't fun to deconstruct because Rebecca Sugar confirmed that their relationship was meant to portray the real-life effects of an abuse victim. Problem is that it's extremely poorly written at best and actually dangerous at worst. During the Gem War, Lapis Lazuli was poofed and then her gemstone was forcibly inserted inside of a prison called the Gem Mirror. Lapis would eventually befriend Steven despite the fact that she was still trapped inside of the Gem Mirror, and she would successfully talk him into releasing her after being kept inside of the mirror for thousands of years, only for her to get recaptured by Homeworld and held as an informant against her will to help them locate the crystal gems. After a heated battle with the crystal gems facing off against Peridot and Jasper, Lapis would heroically trick Jasper into fusing with her and then proceeded to keep Jasper at the bottom of the ocean against her will for a few months. Before we move forward, there are two very important details that we have to take into account. While it's true that Lapis has gone through a lot during her life, none of what she went through prior to the events of a Season 1 penultimate episode titled The Return was Jasper's fault. Jasper didn't trap Lapis inside of the Gem Mirror for thousands of years. She wasn't the one who recaptured her on Homeworld, and she didn't even choose to bring Lapis back to Earth. Peridot has confirmed that she brought Lapis back to Earth because she needed an informant. That being said, after Malachite is separated, Jasper would seek out Lapis in order for them to refuse, because despite her visible torment within Malachite, she missed being Malachite. Jasper was mistakenly written to be the abuse victim in this scenario. Lapis herself would admit that she liked taking out all of her anger on Jasper, anger that Jasper had nothing to do with. Lapis was definitely meant to be viewed as the abuse victim in this scenario, but her actions undeniably line up more with that of the abuser. I think it's worth remembering that abusers aren't always physically stronger. It's all about power imbalances, and Lapis Lazuli definitely holds all of the power in her dynamic with Jasper. Speaking about power imbalances, the way that Rose Quartz treated Pearl was a disaster and by far one of her worst atrocities during her reign of terror on Steven Universe. First things first, pearls were created to be obedient servants to gems that were higher up in Homo society, including the diamonds of course. A pearl can't reasonably consent to a romantic relationship with their master for several moral reasons. But even if you ignore all of that, Rose Quartz wasn't really ever romantically interested in Pearl to begin with. She canonically just used Pearl to get what she wanted, which was a way to escape from all of the duties of her alter ego and true identity, Pink Diamond. During the Season 5 episode titled Now We're Only Fallen, the follow-up episode to the revelation that Rose Quartz was actually Pink Diamond, we disturbingly got the chance to witness firsthand how Rose manipulated Pearl and purposely kept her infatuated, knowing full well that she didn't share Pearl's feelings. Rose could have told Pearl that she wasn't romantically interested, but instead she decided to sleep with countless men and eventually settled down with Greg, only after she got what she wanted from Pearl, of course. All of this is information that we were told on the show, yet at the same time we got lines from Sapphire and Steven insisting that Pearl and Rose potentially had a healthy relationship, and Pearl was the one that somehow swept Rose off of her feet. This scene wasn't played for laughs or anything. The series legitimately wanted us to believe that this was a healthy relationship, so much so that Pearl and Rose Quartz's dynamic was directly compared to Ruby and Sapphire's dynamic. Ruby and Sapphire was one of the only decently portrayed and actually healthy couples on the series, and they were amazing. I know this video has been fairly negative considering the subject matter, but I honestly can't think of a single bad thing to say about these two. Sapphires were aristocratic gems in Homo society, meaning that they were extremely valuable, and rubies being common gods were the exact opposite. Despite this, after fusing for the first time in front of Blue Diamond and both becoming Homeworld fugitives, Ruby and Sapphire would fall for each other on the Earth. They'd have their ups and downs on the show, no relationship is perfect, but they'd always work through the issues until they'd actually get married. This wedding was so important of an event to the Croniverse and Rebecca Sugar that they basically sacrificed the series on a whole just to have this episode air, after which they'd only be given a limited amount of episodes to wrap up the series. Corny never apologized to Steven for ignoring all of his calls and her horrible attitude towards him during their fallout. Lapis never got to follow up with Jasper on screen about their nightmarish past, despite the fact that she would admit to enjoying her abuse of Jasper, and the series still wanted us to believe that Rose Quartz and Pearl were honestly and truly in love. Unhealthy relationships do very much exist in real life. However, all of the unhealthy relationships portrayed on Steven Universe suffer from the same massive issues and writing problems that without a doubt sends the wrong message to the series' loyal fandom. Like I said in the beginning of this video, Steven Universe was an amazing show, but it definitely had its glaring flaws. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed this video and let me know if you agree with the points I've made down in the comment section. Take care.